discuss the approval for the establishment of the health policy, Medipool, with medical practitioner Dr. Tuyi Mebawandu. Thank you very much for sparing time. Now, the prices of medicines are about to be driven down and made more affordable. What are your thoughts on this centralized drug procurement platform, which the health minister says will comprehensively facilitate better pricing and availability of quality medicines?
Well, first and foremost, let's commend the Minister of Health and Social Welfare for such initiative, for taking in that regards. We know that essentially cost of drug contributes significantly to medical costs in this part of the world, especially those with chronic diseases. And at the level of the basic primary health care fund, we know that part of those funds are not really touching the people at the local government level. And we hope that this is going to reverse that trend significantly. But if you look at the health costs generally, you will agree with me that drugs and disposable constitute about 10% of the cost of drugs or cost of healthcare. The major drivers of cost of healthcare, you will be technology. You have to have access to top-notch technology to deal with diagnosis, to deal with treatment. For instance, if you are going to install a CAT lab in any place, the cost is quite enormous. And this essentially will not be covered by Medipool. The other aspect of cost in the healthcare includes the occurrence of chronic illnesses, okay? Quite a large number of Nigerians are now having chronic illnesses, which means that a lot of pool of people will be affected by such chronic illnesses. Other thing is that access to top-notch health experts. This is quite expensive. Now, you must be able to deal with that one essentially because, for instance, you have to deal with intervention cardiologist, for instance, is going to endoscopy will be quite expensive. So technology is a big issue in terms of driving the cost of health. So, but at the level of the basic healthcare delivery, which is going to be routed through one, the primary healthcare centers, and secondly, at the end of the probably through the tertiary healthcare, then we can see some reprieve in that regard. But I am concerned in some areas. One, how is the involvement of the local government? What is the role local government and state government? What roles are they playing in this initiative? Then you have to think about what we call corruption in the health system. How well? Because we saw, for instance, a very noble objectives of National Education Loan Fund being mismanaged. How far? What will happen to this situation? Now, we moved away from centralization to decentralization. Now, again, we are coming back to centralization because when we're doing health reforms, our major area is to focus on what we call decentralization so that at a local level, at the unit level, we can be able to act maximally to impact on the people. But now we're going back to centralization, we're involving private public. But again, we know that the unlocking of the value chains in health system is a good initiative, which was initiated by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2024. We hope that with proper management of this Medipool, we can lower certain costs in health. But that is not all.
Mebawandu, you mentioned rightly that this approval of Medipool follows President Tinubu's signing of an executive order in June 2024, providing tax and tariff waivers on the importation now of raw materials for pharmaceutical production. Are you convinced that this policy will encourage local drug manufacturing?
It's a process. Honestly, it's a process. Now, if you look at the local drug manufacturing or even the cost to health, we are seeing energy as a big cost to health now. Because here now, you have to provide electricity, you have to maintain equipment. These are big costs. Now, there's what we call active pharmaceutical ingredients, API, that needs to be imported from abroad. So the capacity to manufacture in Nigeria will still depend essentially on machinery. It will depend essentially on power. So we have to look at how we can get concession in terms of power how we can get cohesion in terms of active pharmaceutical ingredients and machinery. So when we do that, I think we'll be close to El Dorado. But right now, it is good that at the level of basic people, primary healthcare centers, we are subsidizing or making provision of those essential drugs available. The key word there is essential drugs. We're making them available. We hope we can sustain it without corruption. We hope we can sustain it without sharp practices. We hope we can sustain it by leveraging on the good intention of the President Tinubu and, of course, the Minister of Health.
Very vital factors you have listed there, Dr. Mebawondu. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.